Hello everybody. Good evening, Krakow. Well, the topic of code quality is on the table today, and I hope it makes you excited. At least I am. I do love this topic, and I'm eager to share some of the insights with you today. We've gathered quite some people over here, and I bet not everyone is a Flutter developer over here. Let's get acquainted with each other and let's find out who here is not a Flutter developer. Could you please raise your hand? All right, about 6 people. And who is a Flutter developer? Nice. And what are the rest doing? Well, and I'm also curious, who of you have more than 10 mobile developers working on the same project? Could you please raise your hand? Okay, maybe only 6 hands, so not that many big projects, I would say. And who of you is satisfied with the code quality on your current project? Doesn't matter, Flutter or not Flutter. All right, I would say 30% of the audience. That's good, as my goal for today is to empower all of you with guidelines and tools that you can use to set the code quality bar on your project to a higher level and keep it there with less manual effort. Before diving into the topic itself, I would love to give you a bit more context about me, about myself. The name is Pavel, a lead software engineer at the company called EPAM. Hopefully you know the company already. It would be weird if you didn't, being in our office today. I first encountered Flutter in 2018, loved it, and in 2020 I switched to being a full-time Flutter developer. I also maintain a technical blog that you are very welcome to check out afterwards, and here today I'm also representing our awesome Flutter Netherlands community. So if you are planning a trip to the Netherlands and you are eager to meet some Flutter enthusiasts, make sure to check out our Slack channel or our meetup community. From time to time, we do meet and we have some nice discussions. All right, enough about me. Let's get started. And first things first, I would say that setting up continuous integration and continuous delivery is a must. So if you don't have it still for whatever reason, please make sure you do as soon as possible. And if you hopefully do have it, if you do already have it set up on your project, let's see how you can enhance your continuous integration with additional checks to make sure it is more robust. The code quality gates that I'm about to walk you through are divided into 3 categories. I divided them so based on the amount of effort it takes to set them up. Thus, consider starting with the basic ones first. And the first one on the list is code formatting. That's really nice that Dart tooling provides an option out of the box to help us with that. So please do use it, do validate your formatting, but do not limit yourself to Dart files only. I believe every one of you has other types of files in your source code as well. So consider and look for more options. For example, if you take Node Package Manager plus the package called Prettier, then you can easily make sure that your JSON, YAML, IRB, Markdown, and other types of files are also well formatted and consistent. Also, making sure you are using editor config and a plugin for your IDE is something that you would want to do. Similar advice applies to spelling. We are all human. Everyone makes mistakes, including typos. So check out the popular tool called cspell. I have seen it used in a number of open source projects. And in addition to that, make sure you install a plugin to your IDE and make sure your team members also install it, and then you're good to go. By the way, I think one of the most popular IDE plugins for Visual Studio Code uses this cspell under the hood. When it comes to static code analysis in Flutter, you should know the following. That is good that Flutter lints package is already integrated into the default Flutter application. It was not the case with Flutter 1.0 back at the time. I remember quite a lot of examples of weird code bases where each of the files have a different style and setup. So yeah, it was kind of lasagna and spaghetti everywhere. But even though Flutter lints is already available nowadays with latest Flutter version, from my point of view, that is not enough. I would say that is just the bare minimum. Consider the following things. First of all, I would recommend you configure your CI pipeline so that it fails not only on the presence of errors, but also on the presence of warnings and infers. Then consider enabling stricter type checks. And on top of that, also make sure you enable more lints. As you might have already guessed, Flutter lints package covers only a subset of lints available by Dart SDK. And if I ask you which percentage of Dart SDK lints are covered by Flutter lints, who can guess? How? 30? 30. Any other suggestions? 10. Yeah, too pessimistic. Take a look at this slide. If you pay closer attention, does it work? Yeah, somewhere to the middle. Yeah, over here. You'll notice that Flutter lints package covers less than half. It is only 44% of the lints available from Dart SDK. So check out different options. For example, if you choose a very good analysis package, then you already have almost twice as many lints. But you can also just check out the file on the Dart documentation, which contains all the lints. You can just copy paste it into your solution and comment the ones that you don't want to support with your team. So this is an alternative way to do stuff. Taking a step further would involve the integration of the additional lints developed by the Flutter community. Dart Code Metrics has been the most well-known and used package in this area. It was introduced more than 4 years ago, back in 2020. Our teams have been using it really a lot. And even though it was discontinued last year in favor of DCM, it is still possible to use the old and free version. And DCM, it is its successor, which is a paid alternative. So if you have resources to pay for it, I also recommend checking out this tool. The guys are doing really, really awesome job there. The next level of linting involves the integration of custom lint. With this library, you can develop lints which are tailored to the specific needs and requirements of your team and of your project. Another promising tool, which is based on custom lint, is called Pyramid Lint. I discovered it relatively recently, a bit more than half a year ago. It provides more than 40 lints out of the box. Some of those lints are present on this slide. So, for example, you can easily detect whether you have any resources which are not properly disposed, or if you have any mutable global variables, and many, many other fun things. So really cool stuff. When you're confident about your linter setup, you may want to devote additional attention to your architecture. Every serious mobile application uses some sort of architecture, having various layers and following certain rules. So what I can recommend you here, my firm belief is that you would benefit a lot if you prefer physical separation over logical separation. And what I mean by physical separation here is that you'd better create physical Dart and Flutter packages inside your repository instead of having everything separated only by mere directories or folders. Let me give you a bit more context about what I mean. For the sake of providing the idea, or for the sake of conveying the idea, in one of my articles I took the default Flutter counter applications and I got it refactored in a modularized solution containing the following 5 modules. If you're familiar with domain-driven design or clean architecture, then those names should be already quite known to you, so nothing fancy is used. You may ask, what are the advantages? Well, first of all, you have strict visibility control, meaning that you have package-level encapsulation. So for instance, you simply cannot use some classes or types from one package inside another one if they're not explicitly exported. So you simply cannot do it. Compiler and Dart analyzer will be playing on your side, giving you hints that it is not possible. You have to export and import stuff. The second advantage is that you have high reusability potential, meaning that you can easily get a package and get it reused in another application or another project. And another additional benefit that you may get is some build and CI time optimizations. But we'll come to this topic a bit later. When you have multiple packages in the same Git repository, this is usually something that is called or referred to as a mono repository. And when it comes to mono repositories, there is one tool in the world of Dart and Flutter that you should definitely be aware of. And the name of the tool is Melos. From my point of view, the Melos tool helps really a lot in managing a mono repository. You can easily make sure that all your commands like formatting, analysis, testing are run across all your packages or only across a subset of them based on some filters. Or for example, you can update your external dependencies only in one YAML file instead of doing it in multiple YAML files in each of the application, in each of the packages. So I can recommend this tool without any doubt. One interesting thing though that surprised me back at the time about mono repositories in Dart and Flutter is the possibility of having cyclic or circular dependencies. I came to the Flutter from the world of .NET development, where it was not possible to have like two DLLs or two packages in solution referencing each other. But in the case of Dart, it is possible, to my surprise. So I wouldn't say this is a nice feature for most of the developers, because you kind of don't have a strict boundary. So from my point of view, this is not the best feature, so you'd better avoid such architectural decisions. But luckily, Melos has a remedy for this. So with this simple command, Melos list cycles, you can easily detect any violations in your mono repository, if you have them. And if you're doing good, if no violations found, you will see this positive message. What does it mean? It means that you can easily integrate this check in your CI pipeline, and everyone who violates this rule will see a red PR right away. And what I especially like about this command is the fact that it is super, super fast. So it gives the result in less than a second, no matter how many packages you have. If you have 10 packages in your mono repo, or if you have 100, the result is kind of almost instant. All right, what do we have next? I would say you also should be careful about how you deal with your external dependencies. I believe every Flutter application has some plugins and packages from pub.dev. It is simply inevitable to avoid using everything if you're doing a serious mobile application. So you have dependencies, and dependencies validator can easily spotlight missing, over-promoted, under-promoted, or unused dependencies. So for example, consider a case when you are trying some package, you add it to your solution, then you understood this is not a good package to go, and you just replace it with the other one and forget to remove the reference from your YAML file. So we simply have unused package. With this tool, it can be easily detected. Or for example, if you are using some package only inside your tests and you don't have to use it in your production code, in your application, then it is also maybe something that you over-promote, can be detected as well. All right, let's move on. I bet all of us sometimes just copy and paste some code instead of doing the proper refactoring right away. This may be fine when you're doing POC or when you're doing an application to some event that will happen in 2 weeks and you will throw this application and forget about it. But in the long run, this is not a maintainable approach. So if you're doing a nice application that is going to be supported, doing code duplicates is not the best thing. I hope it is quite clear or quite obvious. And what does this tool do? Yeah, it simply detects any duplicates if you configure it properly. What is also nice about this tool that you can adjust its strictness, so you can configure to find duplicates of, let's say, 50 plus lines or 100 plus lines, or you can also consider excluding certain files like generated ones, or for instance, files containing tests, because tests are usually tend to have quite some code duplicates. And who here has any tests on their Flutter projects? Do you have such brave people? All right, nice. I think half of the audience have the tests. Well, if you want to get serious about automated testing of your software, there is one key concept that you should be definitely aware of, and the concept is called the testing pyramid. I think probably QAs are more familiar, or tend to be more familiar with this concept, but developers should be familiar as well. What are the important things to remember here? First of all, you should write tests with different granularity, or the tests of different type. And the second thing is the higher you get to the top of the pyramid, the fewer tests you should write. Why so? Because those tests are more expensive, and they're more expensive from both maintenance side and from the execution resources side. So both your resources as a developer and resources as your build machine will be involved, and you don't want to spend too much resources on it. Let's briefly go through each of the types. When it comes to unit testing, I recommend definitely to test the behavior of your units or of your classes and not the implementation details. Read about the difference between black box testing versus white box testing. Also read about the difference between fakes and mocks. I think the understanding of those concepts and the differences would help you a lot. Also, one of the implicit advantages of unit testing is that you inevitably have better architecture. For instance, when you need to unit test some class, you cannot do it if you have static dependencies, if you don't have dependency injection. So inevitably, you have to refactor your classes, or you have to write them the proper way from the start in order to make them unit testable. And this is one of the implicit advantages that some people may not realize. Also, consider using FIRST and 3A principles. FIRST stands for fast, independent, reliable, self-validating, and timely. And 3A is the abbreviation for arrange, act, assert. So give it a read if you haven't done so. And what I can also recommend in this area is to use these tools: Clock, Fake Async, Mocktail, and Parameterized Test. There are the tools which prove to be quite useful on our projects. All right, now let's move on to the widget testing. Be aware that you can test not only the behavior of your widgets, like tapping a button and checking the change in a UI state, but you can also test the accessibility, the semantics and accessibility of your applications. Nowadays, more and more companies try to make their applications accessible to everyone, including impaired people, so this type of testing may help you there. A special subset of widget testing is called golden testing. We do love them, and we use them really a lot on our projects. What does this type of testing involve? Basically, when you write this type of test and run it for the first time, or when you run it to create a golden image, a physical image of how your widget looks like is generated and saved into a file. So you literally have a snapshot of some piece of UI, the full screen or a small widget. And when you run your golden test the next time, a new image is generated in memory and compared pixel by pixel to the image that was in the file. And if there is one pixel differs, then the test fails. Also, you can configure this threshold or margin, but usually, yeah, as soon as you have one pixel difference, by default it fails. And why are those tests useful? Because you have the understanding of how your UI looks right away, right in your test. You can also configure your test to have different font sizes or different screen sizes, and in one test you can validate the UI for different form factors and for different use cases, and you don't have to run your application on multiple devices. So really useful type of testing. And also you can configure dark theme, light theme, and see your UI in these modes as well. One of the ways to, let's say, encourage or force developers to write tests to check the code coverage in your CI, in your pull requests. I've seen projects which strived for having 100% code coverage, and I cannot say this is always the best idea. So this does not guarantee you everything. This does not guarantee that your application is free of bugs. But you have to spend lots of resources just making sure that you have the coverage, and some people or some, let's say, but developers may even have tests without any assertions. So they would just assert true equals to true. It will help you to increase the coverage, but it will test nothing. So my advice for you here is to be reasonable about the threshold value. Don't simply or blindly strive for 100%. What you can also do is to have different thresholds or different values for different modules. If you have, let's say, 10 modules, probably you would want to have higher test coverage for your domain package, which is supposed to contain your business logic. Let's say you may have 80% there. And for your, let's say, data layer, you may have 40%. So you may also have this kind of configuration. What about end-to-end integration testing? Well, usually this is a less used option, especially for smaller or startup-like applications. However, you may get quite a good return on investment if you do it the right way. And choosing the right testing tool and the right approach is something of vital importance, I would say. So consider syncing up with your quality assurance engineers, or better automation QAs if you happen to have those guys on your project or around in your company. So sync up with them, ask them about their experience about testing Flutter applications, mobile applications in general, and use this knowledge to have a good start. In the world of Flutter applications, these are the top tools that you can use at the moment. This comparison table gives you some understanding how popular are they. On one hand, the tools like Appium and WebDriver IO have been there for about a decade. They are quite mature, they are quite used. People or developers all over the world or automation QAs engineers know them. So you may consider starting with them. On the other hand, more recent players like Maestro and Patrol are quite promising and may even surprise you. For the sake of giving you the idea of how easy it may be, I took one of my pet applications, of course, a Flutter application, which I released about 5 years ago. I wiped the dust from this application and wrote this integration test. I used Maestro for it, as you might notice. Literally, it took me about 20 minutes to install the tool on my machine, on my laptop, play a bit with Maestro Studio, where you can inspect UI elements of your application, and write this test in YAML format. I'm not sure if this is obvious or not, but the text that you see on the screen at the moment, this is actually the source code of the test script itself. So this is the test exactly how it looks like in YAML file. I didn't have to install any dependencies inside the application itself or do any configuration in the application. To me, it means that with the right testing tool, the process can be really easy and really enjoyable. A really outstanding type of testing that you may have never heard of is called architecture testing. Personally, I do love this type of testing. Your goal here is to automate the validation of your architecture rules. I hope that you have some rules on your project that you and your colleagues are following. So your goal here is to automate as many architecture rules as possible to avoid having any additional discussions or spend your additional time during a pull request review of your colleagues. Get some inspiration from the tool called ArcUnit. This is the tool which exists in the world of Java and .NET. In the world of Java.NET, you have the mechanism which is called reflection, which is quite versatile, and you can achieve a lot with that. This tool is based on reflection. Unfortunately, in the world of Flutter, it is not the case. And even though in the world of Dart, reflection exists in the form of Dart mirrors, I wouldn't say Dart mirrors are kind of having too extensive API to have the tests similar to what this tool can give you. But even without that, even with some more naive and simple ideas and approaches, you can come up with some nice tests. This is a small one to give you an idea, to give you some inspiration. I took this one from one of my recent Flutter applications. We had feature-oriented architecture, and one of our architecture rules was that our features should not have dependencies on each other. We did want to achieve that, to have a lower coupling between our feature modules, and this test was validating exactly this rule. And of course, we had quite a few other tests, but you can see that the tests are quite small, quite simple, quite readable, and were giving good enough results right away. So the approach was quite simple, but proved to be quite powerful and covering our needs completely. Well, having gone through all of these CI checks, you may be wondering, how much time can it take to run all of them on a project of a huge size? Let's say you have a team of 20, 30 Flutter developers, 100 of Flutter and Dart packages. Well, obviously, of course, it depends. It depends on the project, it depends on your configuration. You can run things or run your checks in parallel. Yeah, this is the first obvious option. But what you can also do is to be selective. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you made a change only in the presentation package of your application. Let's say you change only a button, a small widget, or only a page, or you're adding a new page. This change is only encapsulated in your presentation package. This means that you don't have to run all of your checks, like all of the tests, all of the formatting, analysis, etc. You don't have to run all of those checks on, for example, data package or on the main package, because those packages, they don't have any dependencies on presentation. And assuming you didn't touch those packages in your pull request, it will simply be a waste of resources. What you can do is to run your checks only on the package where you did changes and on the package or on the packages which depend on it. Interestingly, with Melas, you have such an ability. There is a command which is called listDiff, and with the help of this command, you can find out what are the packages which are changed in the current Git branch comparing to your target main branch. And you can use this list of packages as a filter towards all your Melas commands. And then you are running all your commands only on the specific set of packages. And this improves the running types a lot, really a lot. So I would say that that is really awesome that Melas also covers us even in such cases. So save your time, save your money by running the checks only on the packages which were changed and which really need to be checked. Overall, the more validations you can automate and put in your CI pipeline, the easier it is for you and for your colleagues, because you can spend this precious time discussing other things and doing other activities. So set stricter policies for your pull requests, be consistent, try to automate as much as possible, and then you will be in a good shape. I really hope that it gives you some food for thought, and I would love to wrap it up with the following idea. Some people say that knowledge is power. That's quite true, but I would say this is true to only some extent. The real power comes when you apply the knowledge, when you put it in practice. So don't postpone until tomorrow what you can do today. Try to grab the knowledge that you got today and use it in practice by making your CI pipelines more robust. Do so that when the next time I see some of you somewhere and ask a simple question, how satisfied, guys? How are you satisfied and happy with the code quality on your current project? The next time I ask you, I really hope to see way more raised hands than I saw today. So let's see how it turns out. For today, that's it from my side. You can use this QR code to check out my technical blog, where all of those things I discovered are covered in way greater detail with code samples. I think you will find something useful there. That's it for now. Cheers, and I will see you the next time. And I think we have some time for questions.
Tak. First thing first, great presentation. I wanted to ask you about your opinion about monitoring. Is it more important than testing, or it's the same? It's equally important.
And what do you imply by monitoring?
I don't know, analytics, stuff like that.
Well, I would say that's also quite important and vital. So with the monitoring, with Crashlytics, you can understand if your application kind of is behaving the way you expect, and if you have 100% test coverage, but 80% of your users have crashing application, then I would say you can throw away these tests and start looking into the problem. So I would say monitoring is really important. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it is a bit outside of the context of today's topic, which is continuous integration and pipeline. So that's why I didn't mention this tool.
But what if you have some features that might be reused in other features?
Then, for instance, if you want some features to be reused inside other features, then probably it is not a feature. You may say it is a component or composed component. So depending on your architecture and on your rules, so you may come up with a proper solution saying which of the layers can be used by other layers and which of the packages can be used by other packages. So in our case, we were having multi-layered architecture, as most projects do nowadays, and we were having layers below feature levels, where we were having like UI library, for instance, with UI components, and we were having the main package and the other packages which can be used by the feature packages. Right?
So you're saying that you have like features, like a lot of feature packages. So it's not like one package for features, right?
No.
And you also have a lot of domain layers.
No,
packages for one package for domain.
Yeah.
And like all business logic are there. And for data is
multiple. So in one of the recent projects, we were having multi-label solution, white label, multi-branded solution. So we were developing mobile applications for several brands from the same code base. So in our case, we were having multiple data layers because those mobile applications were connected to different backends. but all of those applications were e-commerce applications. So we did have e-commerce domain package, but we also had smaller domain packages with the rules specific to those brands. So we had, for instance, we did have 3 mobile applications. So we had shared domain package and 3 additional smaller domain packages and 3 data, let's say, layers. But 80% of the feature packages were used with, among those mobile applications. So mobile applications were not kind of completely white label in the classic understanding, but they were composed from the same components and from the same features. So it was quite a good solution for us. But this is quite, I would say, unusual case for most of the Flutter applications. So you may not want to have that many packages and that many rules. Classical approach with just clean architecture or domain-driven design with 5-10 modules, I think, would be more than sufficient for most of the cases.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. So I have a question about continuous integration, like 2 questions. So one thing, what do you recommend for CI/CD, like something what is ready to go, I mean GitHub Actions or code merging, or there is some other solutions better for Flutter?
Well, here as well, the universal answer, it depends. With our clients, on our projects, we have been using GitHub extensively and GitHub Actions. So we have GitHub Enterprise. So for us, it has been playing quite well. We also have dedicated self-hosted CI machines. We have Mac Minis. So that's why we can spend as much time as we want for our CI pipelines. But we also try to optimize things. So we have been using GitHub Actions. But if your project is bound to some other alternative solution, then yeah, you're free to automate and put those checks to any pipeline, because in the end, it is a terminal command. So you can run terminal command from CodeMagic, from GitHub Actions, from whatever Bitbucket pipeline. Yeah.
Okay, and what is like good idea to check in PR? I mean, like the PR builder, because of course you can check a lot there, and it takes time, yes, and probably it's not really good to wait like 20 minutes for the results. And so the question is like, what is the recommended time for that, and what to check? And if you are using like something like Git hooks, maybe to check.
No, we are not using Git hooks, because with Git hooks, it would mean that you would have to spend additional time locally on your machine before you're able to push your code, for instance. It would be annoying. So for us, as I said, we have Mac Minis, and I would say 80 or 90% of our CI pipeline runs end up running in less than 4 minutes, or 3 or 4 minutes. So for us, it is fine to push the code and wait 3 minutes to understand if all the CI checks passed or not, because we use Selective CI. Of course, if you have made changes across all the code base, it might take 15 or 20 minutes at most, in our case. I would say, it depends on how much time you are willing to wait until you get the result. For me, I would say 5 minutes is a good target. If it is from 5 to 15, maybe it's already quite long, depending on the project of your size. If there are only 3 developers, 15 minutes it's not good. If there are 30 developers, then 15 minutes may be okay.
Okay, thank you.
And answering which checks you would want to put, as many of you as you can, and all the checks you just saw.
Hello? Yeah.
Hey.
What do you recommend to export to local packages? I mean, I've seen the very good ventures export like everything, and it may become a mess. What do you usually export into local packages? What functionalities?
Export in the local packages. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, I mean, what code you write in your packages, modules, or I don't know.
Well, for instance, if you take the example with the
Yeah.
With this application, so you can also check out the GitHub example, which I provide in the article. It will be 5 packages, as you see them now on the screen. And you would have, for instance, in the domain package, you would have an entity, a repository interface, let's say. In data package, you would have a repository implementation, which will provide data. Presentation package will contain, for example, qubit or block, if you use the block package, and the page with widgets. The application package will bind everything together, and cross-cutting concerns will contain DI interfaces, login interfaces, and stuff like that. So this is just an example.
All right, so you usually have like this setup in projects?
Now we have a way more complex setup.
Yeah.
On our recent projects, we have had about 80 packages, but this is a different story. In most of the cases, I would say a setup like this covers your needs quite good.
Yeah, I mean, what do you share the business logic or like data between multiple like I don't know clients?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, but it is also specific to what you are doing. If you have similar mobile applications where you can, for instance, have some kind of UI components reused, you can create a component, UI component library, and get it reused in each of the applications, right? If you have some utility packages, you can also get it reused. So it depends on how much things you do for different clients, for different applications.
All right, yeah. And I have another question about golden tests. Where do you store the golden files? Like in the repository itself?
Yeah, but what I can recommend for sure with the golden files is that you would want to enable Git LFS, Git large file storage. Otherwise, you would blow the Git history of your project significantly, and you don't want to do that. So just enable Git LFS, enable them for your images inside test folders, and then you're good to go.
Thank you.
Hi, I want to ask a question, maybe slightly different one. In the context of startups, would you advise focusing on code quality and writing multiple tests, or keeping the fast momentum at the start of the project would seem more important? What's your opinion in that?
Well, since I'm not working in a startup, I wouldn't be able to give you the best advice here. Yeah, strive. Again, the universal answer: strive for the right balance. Right, you have to feel yourself based on your experience and based on the experience of others. Yeah, if you are simply striving towards releasing something as soon as possible with kind of bad quality, it may be a shot in your own foot, right? So if you need to scale such an application and you cannot scale it because you have to rewrite it from scratch, yeah, I've heard stories from some of my colleagues which are trying to scale the application, but yeah, the application needs to be rewritten because some guys joined or started using Flutter for the first time and they quickly created this. So I would say strive for balance. So if you have already knowledge within the company, within your team, with some best practices, yeah, try to kind of reuse them in your future projects.
Okay, thanks.
Keep the balance. 80-20% rule is also kind of maybe good to follow.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's about time. Thanks.